Hi folks, today I'm going to discuss with you a column that appeared in the Dallas Morning News. Yeah! Here it is, kids! This is a column written by a young lady in Japan named Kumiko Makihara, and I apologize to her for mispronouncing her name. After reading this column, I've looked up some other columns that she wrote, and she's an outstanding columnist. She writes very well, and very articulate, and very understanding of the subjects that she writes about. She is native Japanese, and she lives in Japan, and she wrote this article about Japan, about racial profiling in Japan. Basically, they don't have a term for it or understand the term so much. And she mentions a few instances where she was stopped by authorities and asked for proof that she's there legally, thinking she's a foreigner because she but she's tall and dark. And here's a photograph I was able to locate of her. What she's saying is that the authorities stop people based upon their looks, thinking they may be a foreigner, to check to see if they did not overstay their visa and that they're in the country illegally. And this article tends to lead one to believe that she has a problem with that. She notes in this column that 98% of the population of Japan are Japanese, and that 2% are foreigners, most of whom are Asian. So they blend in rather easily with the rest of the populace, whereas a guy like me would stick out like a sore thumb. And they would know immediately that I'm a foreigner. Well, this nonsense against racial profiling is what it is. Nonsense. And I don't mean to berate the young lady because, like I said, reading her article is extremely intelligent and articulate. But this whole idea against racial profiling, look, you think racial profiling is bad. I tend to think it's good police work. She goes on to mention the fact that also that not many people from Japan attend Harvard. Not because they could not get accepted, but because the Japanese have no desire to go outside the country and attend such an institution. And that she perceives as somewhat being a negative. I think that's a positive. What's that saying is that the educational institutions in Japan suffice enough to meet the needs of both your country and the students seeking entry into those universities. Why go to Harvard? Harvard is a cesspool of extreme liberalism. So the fact that not many Japanese students are entering Harvard University, that's a plus for the nation of Japan. She also mentions there's something to the effect that there was a survey taken and many Japanese have an aversion to working overseas. Hello? That's another plus, meaning that life is quite comfortable in Japan. Why go somewhere else? In addition, we must remember this. Tokyo has one of the lowest crime rates of major cities in the world. I think it's at the bottom when it comes to crime. So now I'm living in a city with that kind of a crime rate, and where am I going to go move? To Chicago? See what I understand? No, I stay right there in Tokyo if I'm Japanese. And then something to the effect, she writes, that she overheard Japanese on mass transit complaining about various type of foreigners and their behavior once they're in Japan. And she perceives that to be a negative, complaining about the foreigners. Well, you know, I grew up in New York City. And the New York City is infested with foreigners. Yeah! My grandparents being four of them. But you will hear constantly New Yorkers complaining about the people from the United Nations, because the United Nations is located there, and their ill-mannered behavior and illegal behavior that transpires throughout the whole city from the people who work and live at the United Nations. I mean, that's a normal thing to do. It doesn't degrade the people in New York for doing that, nor does it degrade the people in Japan. So, once again, that's just my disagreement with parts of this column that this young lady wrote. And I'll try to have a link to this column in the description because it's an excellent column. She writes very well. All right, folks. We'll see you. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless the nation you happen to be in. See ya.
We are springing to the call for 300,000 more.